we're already into the action part of the program, and it just sort of happened that way. So if we could, let's hear from each of the groups, basically the main points that were talked about and things that were raised. So is there a spokesperson from the you want us to start? I was always trying to be last. Okay. So we have a wonderful person who volunteered to take notes on our session. So could you give us a summary?
I'm afraid this summary is going to be terribly smooth. We jumped around a bit, but there were some kind of major themes that we touched on. We started actually by talking about mindfulness and sort of the commodification of mindfulness in the culture, and how it, although on the one hand it's beneficial, on the other hand it gets put to purposes that that are not necessarily beneficial. And so there was discussion of that, and also just of the term mindfulness and what it means, and is it even useful? Let's see. We talked about, again related to that, the many different forms of meditation, and sort of the importance of understanding the different forms of meditation. Again, not just reducing everything to mindfulness. Let's see. There was a lot of discussion also about bringing Dharma to the younger generation, particularly the second generation of families whose parents were not born here, who came from Asia or non-English-speaking countries, and keeping the Dharma tradition alive for them, and also dealing with the special issues that those children growing up in this culture might have in relating to their own tradition. And we heard from a number of some of the teachers in the Thai tradition who talked about the ways they have approached that question. Let's see. And there were some great suggestions that we had from people on how to work with teenagers, how to work with very young children, and just also the idea that it is possible to work with very young children in different age groups. We also discussed, just in terms of the intra-Buddhist issues, differences in approach among the different Buddhist traditions, and actually what we were just talking about now was the importance of familiarizing ourselves with the different traditions, with the entire canon, and having a better understanding of both the forms of practice and study that the other traditions engage with, and really being able to speak in a knowledgeable way about that. And actually one suggestion that we were just touching on now was that the different Dharma centers produce sort of information sheets about that would just give a brief outline of the history and roots of their traditions and key texts and key practices in a way that could make it easily accessible to other Buddhists, so that they, from other traditions, so that they can have a better understanding of that, and there can just be more understanding and less misrepresentation of the other traditions. Let's see. We touched briefly on the question of engaging with social justice movements. I think actually both Bhikkhu Bodhi and Roshi Ohara had some very good things to say about that, and the importance of maintaining a distinction between between anger, having some kind of emotional anger about an issue, and developing a beneficial sense of moral outrage when you see an injustice, and bringing that to any social justice work you might be doing. We also talked about making, in terms of making Buddhism available to non-Buddhists, which I think it was Venerable Klimt who just talked about how important it was just taking the train as an ordained person, and sort of showing non-Buddhists in the culture that Buddhism is alive, and that it's, and making himself available for people who might have questions, and just keeping it out there, and being open, and again, what the sort of representation is of Buddhism in the culture, and we talked about that, how to talk to one's friends, one's parents, one's spouses about Buddhist practice, and actually we were just touching on that too, and talking about how Buddhism responds as a whole, how Buddhists respond to crises, and the perception, are we out there, or are we being quiet and withdrawn, and I think there was some sense that we should be more out there and participating. So I guess we'll get into this now, but we had a number of suggestions for how the Buddhist Council could help, and how we could all help each other through the Buddhist Council, through meetings, and also through developing materials for each other, and educating each other, and just keeping each other informed. So I have probably left out some major thing. So if I have, please chime in.
Thank you so much.
First of all, my apology, because I forgot to assign anybody to write it down. So, no, the thing is, we started for the discussion, and I thought we were going to divide the group, and then when we divide the group, we will ask somebody to assign the people. But in the end, we didn't divide, so because of that, I forgot to assign anybody. So with my apologies, so maybe I feel like I should be the one that I have to. Since I didn't assign anybody, so which is not fair to anybody to be taking this part of the responsibility. So, but first of all, our group with the Imam and Nanda Pantes, and from the different actual tradition. But I was first, this is totally different. My impression was interesting not to have too many American people come to the interfaith. But I don't know whether my illusion or. I thought
he's too honest.
because people who are from the other country, I mean, most of us from the not the Native American people, but they're not interested in the dialogue. And then so, it's just the impression that I have. So, but the discussion itself was it was very, for me, it was interesting to hear everyone, because this is a rather large group. I was small, so at least people have a chance to share their opinions and thoughts. And then the first part of the, especially Burma and situation, my original plan was, of course, we try to get some monk from the Burma to be able to come, but for some reason we couldn't get any Burmese people here today. So that's why that's the little intention. But the first background is that we had a little meeting at the Time magazine article, and then all the monks are concerned about how people see Buddhists as a terror, and so that's where this particular conversation started. So in a way, this was a follow-up for the particular incident that happens, and so and then this is some concerns in how this particular one country situation affected many other parts of the Asia and the other country, and this is not problem for the Sri Lankan situations and Southeast Asian situation has been a little not too easy because of the different background, the different history as well. And so we discussed that as a beginning part of the things, and then they share some of the thoughts. And then the Bangladesh from he has to leave early, but he shared the Bangladesh condition before. And so first part is we just simply brought up some of the difficulties and what could be really the problems, and then we discussed also media has a lot of responsibility about what's happening, which is like sometimes even small incident may become the really big incident, and also how media label, because if you label Buddhist killing Islam, or is a people killing people, or is the what do you call it? Islam. I mean, maybe like what do you call it? Extremist killing people. I mean, it makes a big difference. I mean, same situation, but how you label and then how you the amplify in a way. And so that creates some what do you call it? We found out that we sort of agree that there's some problem for that, a big problem for that. I mean, is this really the religious conflict, or is this the political conflict? Simply, well, country to country, each country has their own concerns, not the Buddhist, the Muslim, but rather it's really like a position of where those nations thinking politically, and then so anyway, those questions asked, and then in the end, of course, we cannot solve the problems, but we just at least understand how much of the the things that we know may not be the things what's really happening, and so that's more like part of the beginning discussion. And then the second discussion is basically asking some possibility to maybe if we can't do anything over there, but yet that affect to us, and then at the same time here in New York, maybe we can do something too. And so I know I'm skipping a lot of things, so sorry, but at least the main highlight of that part. And then some of the suggestion is actually part of the education is something that we emphasize, and so which include the children, young education, because Dariyama said, I guess, maybe old people already have their own way, we can't change them. So, but the young people still have the possibility to change their minds and so forth. So maybe even like this kind of respecting each other, respecting the other traditions and so forth, so create compassion and so forth each other, maybe raised in a young age. So and then sometimes maybe even each temple can open having more dialogue with Islamic representations. And so those are some suggestions, and not, so maybe you can do something that each capacity. And at the same time, we do discuss possibility of education in the maybe have series of Buddhist, Islam, Muslim dialogue type of things. And then there's the book with but then the Salah Asai, suggested some of the books. Actually, it was written about Buddhism and then Islam. So it might be a good source of discussion, maybe if we can do something like that. And then so education part is one, and then the other part is so maybe if the media, since we don't discuss media, if the media is not available, maybe we should have our own media. Is another idea, because so that it's really can publish what we wanted to say, what we need to say. But of course, the Buddhist Council may not have enough fund and so on. But anyway, that's just my comments. But at the same time, it is a possible revenue, and maybe we should have a Buddhist, Buddhist in New York. May need to have such voices too. The tricycle is doing it, but at the same time, maybe including all the different Buddhist centers could be part of those things. And and then also Ibrahim invited us to the next Turkey trip. One more Turkey trip. I don't know if I can announce it this much. So as a specific, but it was a good exchange because so at least when I went there, because I only mentioned the group, but when we went from the Buddhist group we meet some of the Turkey local people, and what they said asking about us is why the Buddhists killing Muslim. And then also they don't know anything about Buddhism, really, except that particular thing. So Buddhism means, so in a sense, for regular Turkish people, Buddhist means they are killing the Muslim in Burma. Right? That's the kind of a misunderstanding too. So, but then so that's why misunderstanding is one of the very big issues. So, but then also, that we went to Turkey and it changed some of the the stereotype of actually seeing some my face with Amadipa's face on the TV. I think according to him, we changed the change. So maybe those efforts might be more important. And so is there any other important things that I'm missing? Those are some of the things. Maybe like a UN thing. One thing also talk about the stereotype is among words that there's some something. What's your name? Something. Okay, so as you mentioned about this stereotype of how this is also stereotype. So Buddhist is this, that even like a clothes or wear, and then so that stereotype is also sometimes help, but then sometimes create more problem because we assume if you see some other revision with the wrong information, they always see suspicious eyes and so forth. We always see the neighbors. So that should be somehow overcome. So there are again so many educational programs should be the very important ones. So hopefully in the future, near future. I'm not talking about actual future, but maybe sometime even this year we can start some dialogue and so forth. And so that's the discuss.
May I remind you before?
Sure. Go ahead.
I think we talked about, because I think I feel like people should hear about that. We felt like regarding the educational suggestion part, if we bring our powers together as all the religious organizations around the United States, we can maybe put some interfaith program into the state curriculum, so that children can get very. It doesn't have to. They don't have to name it as a religious program, but a part of the cultural program, so that they know about what Buddhism is, what Christianity is, what Islam is, so that we can start, because they have already Buddhist friends, Christian friends, Muslim friends. I think that's a very important thing that we can push together, and as an institution, your institution can do. And the other important thing, I think, is we need to speak up for every problem. Not only when we have, as a Buddhist, problems with the community, not as a Muslim when people call me terrorist, and not as a Christian when they have the Catholics have a problem. We speak up when there is a problem related to humanity. We speak up for everybody, and that's one of the reasons why I went to the embassy to support my dear friend over there. So that's the other part, I think.
Great.
This is actually my second page, which was I have to write it down to do.
It's too long.
But thank you.
No, it's yours. I don't want it.
I hope that's the kind of summary that we have. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer some of the concerns. Is there anybody who wanted to add anything? If I think something important.
You mentioned a curriculum, what, in the New York City school system?
Yeah.
Well, actually, there is.
Tannenbaum is actually doing it. We have worked with Tannenbaum. They came up with a book, suggested book,
Right.
and I promoted as a Peace Science Institute. We did the opening at our institution, but it's not in the system yet. I mean, such a curriculum. It's not in the system.
There's been, well, maybe an altered curriculum, but I know in the high schools there is. My son actually went a whole semester just learning each
High
religion.
school is too late.
The problem is, it is too late, but the problem with that is that he had someone who absolutely knew nothing about, when he studied each one of the religions. So for
Oh,
him,
yeah.
so I think it's important that we also engage that way, when that, if that does happen, that you have someone who goes out
Yeah.
who can promote that.
Yep, I agree.
It's 4 o'clock. Well, first of all, no, I just wanted to again thank you very much for first of all, I'd like to give some gifts to the speakers.